Part 42. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 411. Zhangzhiluo, Mrs. Kui and Kui Hejin have only been in the capital for a short time, and they really didn't pay attention to the situation of the Pei family. Perhaps they have all forgotten the Pei family. Zhangzhiluo said, looking at the way Pei Nanshan is dressed, the Pei family must be in dire straits. They are valued by the Southern Emperor, and they also have an appointed consort. They were the same faction as the former Southern Emperor, so naturally they will not be valued by the new emperor. Whether he can study in the Imperial College remains to be seen. Zhangzhiluo didn't say much else. Kui Qingkai is naturally not stupid. She said, now that he sees my brother becoming the #1 scholar, he thinks of my Kui family. Although she didn't want to think too much about it, the Pei family used to act like they were greedy for vanity and fearful of power. If not, how to explain that the Pei family wanted to kill her? Thinking of what it was like at Pei's house at that time, Kui Qingkai's eyes became firmer. Zhangzhiluo looked at Kui Qingkai's expression and saw that she was a sensible person, so she stopped worrying about it. Soon, they arrived at Kui Mansion. There were also many people with their children surrounding the gate of Kui Mansion. It was very lively, and they all wanted to benefit from the talent of the #1 scholar. Fortunately, Zhangzhiluo understood and had people prepare baskets of copper coins and scatter them out. Everyone was saying nice things and it was very lively. Looking at the lively scene, Zhangzhiluo was also happy, and the groom drove the carriage into the house. In the past, Kui Kuagong's mansion was very large and covered a large area. Now that only a few of them live there, Mrs. Kui is not used to it. And it's easy to remember the past. But Mrs. Kui was grateful to the emperor for being able to live in the Kui family again and take back the Kui mansion. She understood that the emperor took good care of the Kui family. As if she understood what Mrs. Kui was thinking, Zhangzhiluo said, "Mother, Kui's house is so big and has so many yards. We can renovate it and plant some vegetables in it. When mom has nothing to do, she can also play with vegetables and other things in the house. If she likes flowers, she can also plant some flowers." As soon as she heard about planting vegetables, Mrs. Kui came to her senses and said, "Yes, you can grow vegetables. You don't need to plant any flowers, just vegetables. It's practical." Mrs. Kui has lived in Donghe village for 2 or 3 years, but she can't live without leisure. Previously in the yard of Donghe village, they also liked to grow some vegetables in the yard. Now you can also play with some vegetables in Kui Mansion. Moreover, after they returned to Kui Mansion, they happened to find several former domestic slaves of Kui Mansion. They are loyal to the Kui family, and they are grateful for the kindness of letting them out of the house when the Kui family was exiled. Now that they are back, they work even harder. It is March now, so I can plant some things. Zhangzhiluo wants to grow some vegetables, as well as some potatoes and sweet potatoes. However, thinking that Kui Hejin would come back for dinner at noon, Zhangzhiluo went to the kitchen to cook in person. On weekdays, there are people who specialize in cooking in the kitchen. They are all people from Kui Mansion in the past. Although their cooking is very good, it lacks a bit of flavor. Zhangzhiluo also prepares special seasonings to add flavor, so the meals taste better. Zhangzhiluo is busy in the kitchen. I heard a sound coming from outside, and soon I saw Kui Hejin coming back wearing the #1 scholar uniform. It's just that Zhangzhiluo didn't expect that he would come into the kitchen to look for her as soon as he came back. Zhangzhiluo looked at his clothes and really thought they looked very good. Her eyes lit up just by looking at it. "This is the kitchen, why are you here? There's a lot of oil smoke here." Kui Hejin whispered, "Just let the kitchen cook." When he returns home, he has a habit of looking for his Zhiluo first. After seeing her, he will feel at ease. Zhangzhiluo smiled and said, "It's okay, you won the first prize in the exam. Today is a happy day. I will cook the food myself, so we can celebrate too. And I also brewed Osman thus wine before, so I just took it out to drink. Okay. You go and do your work first. Mother said you will also worship your ancestors when you come back. The Kui Mansion Ancestral Hall has already placed the memorial tablets for the ancestors of the Kui family. Kui Hejin won the first prize in the examination, so he naturally had to offer incense first. Kui Hejin reached out and gently stroked Zhang Ziluo's hair and said, "Okay, just don't be tired. Don't worry, this kind of work is not tiring. And you won the first prize in the exam, I'm very happy." Zhang Ziluo was indeed very happy, with a smile in her eyes. Everything Kui Hejin did was to make his Ziluo happy. After staying with Zhang Ziluo for a while, Kui Hejin went to the ancestral hall to worship his ancestors. In the ancestral hall, Kui Hejin burned incense to worship his ancestors, and too many emotions surged in his heart. When the Kui family was exiled and his grandfather and father died, he had too many things suppressed in his heart. It was like a huge stone weighing on the bottom of his heart. Whether he could survive the exile is another matter. He also met Ji Luo in Donghe village. To him, the Kui family was a dark place. Thinking of Zhang Ziluo, Kui Hejin had a gentle look on his face. Because Ji Luo was here, the hardships on the road to exile, the hardships in Donghe village at the beginning, and the pain of being poisoned and having her internal strength destroyed by martial arts were nothing. Kui Hejin came out of the ancestral hall, and Mrs. Kui couldn't help crying when she looked at him. Okay, your father and your grandfather will be extremely happy to see that you have won the first prize in the exam. Your grandfather asked you to study literature and martial arts at that time. He actually thought about letting the Kui family change their family and follow the path of civil servants. It is not easy to be a general. Even if a military general risks his life to perform meritorious service on the battlefield, he may not get a good word from the emperor. Happiness may lead to success. Civil officials are more stable. Kui Hejin nodded and said nothing more. At this time, the guard came to report, "Master, old lady, there are several distinguished guests outside the door, including Prince Rong, Prince Yan, Prince An, Prince Jinzhen." Kui Hejin's expression changed. These are all influential figures in the capital. What a distinguished guest. Originally, the Kui mansion ordered no banquets or entertaining guests. For this reason, Zhang Ziluo did not let anyone from the Wei mansion come over. It's just that people from the Wei mansion sent many gifts early in the morning. Unexpectedly, even if the Kui family released the news, someone would still come. And some of them are his former classmates and friends. Invite them in. Yes. Mrs. Kui is a little worried. Kui Hejin said, "Mom, don't worry, I'm going to entertain you." Well. Over in the kitchen, Zhang Ziluo heard that many distinguished guests came to the house. He added some more vegetables. Zhang Ziluo doesn't feel hard cooking, but cooks very quickly. After it was ready, it was time for the banquet at noon, and she asked the kitchen people to send it to entertain the distinguished guests. Zhang Ziluo, Mrs. Kui and Kui Qingkai were eating in the inner hall. Kui Hejin entertained several distinguished guests at the banquet. After a few words of greeting, the food was served in the kitchen. Actually, Kui Hejin doesn't want everyone to eat the rice cooked by Ji Luo. It's just that these few people are of high status and it's hard not to entertain them. Mr. Yanziahe smelled the fragrance and said excitedly, "Brother Kui, I have never seen any of these dishes. They smell so delicious." The best thing about Mr. Yanziahe is eating. You can tell the food is delicious by smelling the aroma. End of chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 412. Kui Hejin's face didn't look good, but Mr. Yanziahe was still looking at the food and marveling at it. Yanziahe has a cheerful temperament. At this time, He only has food in his eyes and smells the fragrance. He doesn't even notice that Kui Hejin's face is not good. Shen Qinyi, the son of the Minister of Rites, was actually more curious about Kui Hejin's legendary wife. No one was originally curious, but Kui Hejin actually showed great care about his wife on weekdays. Coupled with some rumors in the capital, it was said that his wife was a shrew in the countryside, and he was most afraid of what his wife in the countryside would do. They couldn't help but come here out of curiosity. To think that the eldest son of Kui Kuagong's mansion, who was extremely talented and versatile at the time, is now also the #1 scholar in the new science, and he is dedicated to protecting his country wife. And he was afraid that some officials would take advantage of him. Whenever he gave him a hint, he would show that he already had a wife, and he would be extremely loyal to his wife and would never take a concubine. So everyone is really curious about what kind of woman can make Kui Hejin do this. It can be said that he is a skilled charioteer. This food is really different. The chef at Brother Kui's house is really good at cooking. Some dishes may not be available even in the imperial dining room. Prince Rongjun is a descendant of the royal family. He often goes to the palace and eats food from the imperial kitchen. Some of the dishes have never been seen before. Kui Hejin naturally didn't want others to talk about the chef. He doesn't like others to show the slightest disrespect to his Siluo. Today, Japan is celebrating my passing the first prize. My wife personally cooked this. If everyone hadn't come by chance, they wouldn't have been able to eat the food cooked by my wife. Let's all have a taste. Some people are curious, while others show contempt. The hostess of the noble family's house never knows how to cook. It will lose value for nothing. But this meal looks so delicious. Although they had some thoughts in their minds, everyone still curiously picked up their chopsticks to taste it. Mr. Yanziaha was straightforward and said directly, "It turns out that the food is cooked by my sister-in-law. We are so lucky, so we have to taste it." Kui Hejin personally used chopsticks to take everyone to eat. Seeing him move his chopsticks, everyone used chopsticks to eat. Mr. Yanziaha looked at the dish in front of him and saw that it was meat, probably braised pork. It's just that the color looked different from what he had eaten in a restaurant, and he was too embarrassed to pick up the food directly in front of others to taste the food in front of him first. When he took it into his mouth, Mr. Yanziaha was stunned. This braised pork is delicious. It's soft, tender, and tasty. It's delicious. Mr. Yanziaha has eaten too many delicacies and knows all the meat recipes. Who would have thought that he would be surprised by such a dish? And strangely, he found that the meat still had a faint sweetness. There are actually chestnuts in this. Kui Hejin explained, "This is chestnut braised pork. Tasty." Prince Rongjun also ate a dish in front of him. He had never seen what it looked like and didn't know what scrambled eggs were. He thought this kind of dish was the most ordinary, and he didn't think much of it at first, but after taking a bite, he was surprised by the taste. He felt incredible. He picked up his chopsticks again and took a few bites before he realized that the food looked so inconspicuous but tasted absolutely delicious. "What is this red dish? The eggs in it have a very unique and different taste." Kui Hejin continued to explain, "This is a scrambled egg with tomatoes. The vegetable inside is tomatoes, also called tomatoes." Ziluo usually cooks these dishes for her family, so Kui Hejin is very familiar with them. And he can also cook many dishes himself. Kui Hejin would also learn to do this when helping his Ziluo. He has no idea in his heart that a gentleman should stay away from the kitchen. "What are tomatoes, Brother Kui? We have never heard of this vegetable." Kui Hejin said warmly, "This is a vegetable discovered by my wife. It is not available on the market. Only his Ziluo store has it." In Ziluo's words, there are a lot of tomatoes planted in the space. Furthermore, even if you don't cook the food from space, you will still feel delicious when you eat it, and eating it is good for people's health. Some people have 6 meatballs in front of them. Although major restaurants also make meatballs, the difference in taste can only be felt when everyone eats them. Even if you don't admit it, you can't help but admire it in your heart. There are also Buddha jumping over the wall, sweet and sour pork ribs, pickled fish, spicy chicken, longjing shrimp, sauced pork trotters, fried pork with chives, etc. A table full of dishes. There are also staple food noodles. Even if it's just noodles, everyone can enjoy it. The noodles are particularly chewy. The waiter also quickly served sweet-scented Osman Thus wine. This is the sweet-scented Osman Thus brew made by our wife herself. You can't buy it outside. I learned that there are distinguished guests coming to the house, so I specially brought it out for you to try. Everyone was even more stunned. Brewing is a skill. If you don't know how, you won't be able to make good wine at all. When the waiter opened the wine jar, everyone smelled the aroma, and the expressions of those who were good at wine changed. Good wine. Just by smelling it, everyone knows it's a good wine. Moreover, Zhang Ziluo also asked people to bring space glass cups to entertain everyone to drink. Watching the Osman Thus wine being poured into the glass cups, everyone found it pleasing to the eye. After drinking the wine, he praised the good wine again and again. I wish I could take it back and give it to the elders in the family to try it. They all come from noble families, and naturally they have seen all kinds of good things. It was just this meal that everyone had a great time. Of course, they sincerely congratulated Kui Hejin for winning the first prize in the exam, and congratulated him on his rapid rise to prominence. But everyone thought of Kui Hejin's wife and guessed that she was a fat country woman who might also be able to cook with kitchen utensils. Thinking about that scene, everyone looked at Kui Hejin with sympathetic eyes. Kui Hejin doesn't care at all what others say or think. He wished he could hide his wife at home so that no one could see her. Just wishing everyone could know how good his Ziluo is. It's just that his family Ziluo told them that they should keep a low profile when they first came to the capital. This meal was enjoyed by everyone. Of course, everyone brought noble gifts to show their respect. When everyone walked out of the Kui mansion, Mr. Yan Ziahe said, "No wonder Brother Kui cherishes his wife so much. Her cooking skills are really outstanding. Being able to eat such delicacies every day really makes people feel happy. Not to mention the wine I brewed myself. It is a fine wine that is hard to buy with a lot of money." Although Brother Kui and his wife are from the countryside of Bizhu, it can be seen that they are capable. Even if you don't know poetry, but you know how to cook, it is still a kind of ability. After eating such delicious food and drinking fine wine, they were naturally a little unsatisfied and even wanted to come to Kui Mansion often. Of course it may not be easy to find an excuse next time. But now they are more curious about what Brother Kui and his wife look like. You can only guess based on your imagination. After finally sending everyone away, Kui Hejin immediately went to find Zhang Ziluo. He didn't say anything, but just hugged her distressfully. Zhang Ziluo felt that Kui Hejin was not in the right mood and asked softly, "What's wrong? Have those young men made you unhappy today?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 413. Zhang Ziluo was a little worried about Kui Hejin, and she didn't look right when she looked at him. Kui Hejin shook his head and said, "No, I just don't want you to cook. It must be very hard for you to cook so much food at noon." As soon as she heard Kui Hejin's words, Zhang Ziluo suddenly understood. She came out of Kui Hejin's arms, looked up at him, and said with a crooked smile, "I don't feel it's hard. I can cook your favorite meals and help you entertain your old friends or friends. I feel very happy. Zhang Ziluo is not so particular. I don't think it's okay to cook for the gentlemen to eat." She is mentally strong enough and will not be affected by rumors. Of course she herself knew that there was a rumor circulating in many places in the capital. They say she is a country shrew, that she is fat, that she forced Kui Hejin to marry her, that she is a lion from Hedong, etc. When Zhang Ziluo went out, she just smiled when she heard such rumors. She doesn't care at all. Originally, the brothers of the Wei family were very angry, and they all wanted to reveal her identity, and they all wanted to find out the people who spread the rumors and teach them a lesson, so that they would say bad things about her. Her brothers were very protective of her and doted on her, so naturally they couldn't listen to those words. But Zhang Ziluo stopped them. It is better to guard against people's mouths than against rivers. Originally, the Wei family came back as heroes and won the hearts of the people. Zhang Ziluo didn't want the Wei family's reputation to be affected. Moreover, if someone knew about the relationship between the Wei family and the Kui family, they would inevitably have some ideas. So Zhang Ziluo felt that it was better not to reveal her identity and to keep a low profile. Husband, don't think too much. What others say, we won't lose a piece of meat, right? Kui Hejin touched her hair helplessly, feeling that his little wife had a really good attitude. But he couldn't bear to let her suffer the slightest injustice. When I decided to return to the capital, I wanted to give you better things, not to let others talk about you. He didn't expect the rumors to be so serious. Zhang Ziluo shrugged and smiled and said, that's because you are so famous. For such a young and beautiful champion, you still miss your country wife. The girls from noble families will naturally be jealous, so they will find ways to blackmail you. Me. When Kui Hejin lowered his head to look at Zhang Ziluo, he said with a tender look in his eyes, that's because they don't know how good you are. Only he knows how good his Ziluo is. After a pause, Zhang Ziluo asked curiously, did anyone tell me how the food I cooked was like, how it tasted, and how was the sweet-scented osman the stuffed rice? Kui Hejin looked at her expectant expression and knew that she wanted to open a gourmet restaurant. Kui Hejin said, they all praised it and said every dish was delicious. The osman thus wine is also said to be very delicious, even better than Qianjin Zy, which is hard to buy with 1,000 gold coins. After every dish was finished, I saw they were still reluctant to leave when they left. Of course Kui Hejin doesn't want to entertain them often, and he doesn't really want them to see his wife. He felt that his Ziluo clan had become more and more beautiful since the seal was lifted. Looking at her, Kui Hejin's heart moved, something seemed to be surging in his eyes, but he tried his best to suppress it. Zhang Ziluo naturally didn't notice this. She heard those people say that the food was delicious, and she felt quite happy. This shows that those young men who are used to eating delicious food also think the food I cook is delicious. I was still thinking about the business of Kui's 2 shops, but now I have an idea. Kui Hejin raised his eyebrows, oh, what do you think? Fast food restaurant. Is it a restaurant? Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, well, it's a restaurant, but it's different from a restaurant. It's just home-cooked food, but at an affordable price. Just like the Imperial Canteen. It happens that one of the shops is close to the Imperial College. It would be good to open a fast food restaurant like this there. I remember when my third brother went to the Imperial College to study, he complained that the food in the Imperial College was not delicious. Some distinguished families specially ask family members to deliver meals at noon, but no matter how exquisite the food is, it cannot be said to be unique and delicious. This is why many young men like to go to number 1 restaurant to eat. But the food at number 1 restaurant is very expensive, and we can't eat there every day. But if you open a fast food restaurant and provide a variety of affordable and cheap home-cooked meals, it should be more popular. When talking about opening a store and running a business, Zhang Ziluo's eyes seemed to light up with 2 flames at once, bright and vivid. Kui Hejin looked at her like this and felt that she was even more beautiful. You can do whatever you want, as long as you like it. But tell me what you need me to do and I will arrange it. Zhang Ziluo waved her hand gently and said, "It's okay, just have a good rest and do your job well. I will do the other things. And our Kui mansion is very big, and we can carve out several pieces of land to grow vegetables. Besides, I also grow a lot of vegetables in my space, which can be used to open fast food restaurants. Besides, there are a lot of people coming and going in the capital. We are all hungry at noon, so we actually want to find a place where we can sit and rest to eat. Although there are noodle shops and wonton shops, you will get tired of eating noodles all the time. Besides, my fast food restaurant has a variety of delicious and affordable dishes. It also provides noodles, soup, porridge, and other foods." Kui Hejin looked at her energetic look and burst into laughter. In the afternoon, Zhang Ziluo went to the study room to write her plan. She was busy until the evening, cooking in the kitchen. After dinner, Zhang Ziluo continued to add some details to the plan. "When you wash up and go to bed at night." Zhang Ziluo went to bed and was about to lie down. Kui Hejin held her and used his inner strength to blow dry her hair. It's not easy to catch a cold this way. Zhang Ziluo would stop Kui Hejin in the past, feeling that he was wasting his internal energy by using it like this. But Kui Hejin was very insistent, and after many times, Zhang Ziluo just let him blow dry her hair like this. At this moment, Zhang Ziluo looked at Kui Hejin's beautiful and elegant appearance and didn't want to get up, so she leaned lazily in his arms. Kui Hejin hugged the soft and innocent person and whispered, "What's wrong? Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere, or are you tired and catching a cold?" Zhang Ziluo stood up slightly, put her arms around Kui Hejin's neck, and then pushed him to lie on the bed. She just leaned in his arms, looked at him, and gently traced his eyebrows with her hands. "I just feel a thrilling sense of brightness. Husband, you still owe me a wedding night." Hearing these words, Kui Hejin's face suddenly turned red. Seeing Zhang Ziluo about to untie his belt, Kui Hejin gently held her hand, his throat rolled and said, "Ziluo, no." Zhang Ziluo pouted and snorted deliberately, "Humph, do you not care about me? Do you not want to?" Kui Hejin pulled her into his arms anxiously, turned over gently, and Zhang Ziluo fell under Kui Hejin. She looked up at his eyes, and when she met his surging eyes, she felt dangerous and intimidating. Kui Hejin sighed softly and said, "You fool, why don't you care?" The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 414. When he spoke, Kui Hejin's voice was restrained and hoarse. Zhang Ziluo reached out and hugged Kui Hejin's neck, looked up at him and said, "Then what do you think you are worried about? Every move of his beloved has a fatal attraction for him. She didn't do anything, and sometimes he couldn't control himself. The self-control that I was proud of was somewhat broken." Kui Hejin's throat rolled, and he lowered his head and placed his lips on Zhang Ziluo's lips. I thought it was just a taste, but Kui Hejin couldn't control it at all. Can't help but be greedy for her scent. Zhang Ziluo only felt that Kui Hejin's aura was gentle at first, and then became more and more domineering. The whole person was swept over her like a violent storm. Zhang Ziluo's heart almost jumped out of her chest. After a long time, when Zhang Ziluo couldn't breathe, Kui Hejin slowly let go of her. Kui Hejin then hugged Zhang Ziluo and slowly explained in a hoarse voice, "Back in the country, the wedding was very simple. I feel that I wronged you. So I'm thinking of formally proposing marriage to your family after I pass the exam and get the top spot on the gold medal list. I'll do it according to the specifications. I want you to be in a good position. You said I owe you a wedding night, and that's true. So I want to supply you with the best of everything, including me. Everything he owns belongs to his Ziluo family." Only then did Zhang Ziluo understand what he was worrying about and struggling with. Zhang Ziluo said, "For me, that would be a good meeting. There are a lot of rituals. So there's no need to make up for those things, and it's so troublesome to take care of so much. All you need is this. Speaking, Zhang Ziluo stretched out her hand, wrapped it around Kui Hejin, and gently teased him. However, Zhang Ziluo's movements were very clumsy and green. She actually doesn't understand much, like a blank sheet of paper, but because it's Kui Hejin, she mustered up the courage to get close to him and want the two to become a real couple. Once she figured it out from the beginning, Zhang Ziluo would not be entangled. Kui Hejin took a deep breath. Kui Hejin looked down at Zhang Ziluo, his eyes like a dark whirlpool, trying to sweep people up. Zhang Ziluo looked at Kui Hejin with soft eyes. There was a bright red on her ice-like cheeks, as if stained with rouge, which was beautiful and moving. Kui Hejin's eyes, which had always been cold and picturesque, were no longer as gentle as before. The restrained affection and possessiveness in his eyes were like a flood, pouring down all at once, as if they were about to drown people. Zhang Ziluo looked at him, feeling as if her eyes were electrocuted, and her eyes trembled fiercely. His eyes were like thunder and lightning, as if they could burn her. Zhang Ziluo swallowed, crane hibiscus. Kui Hejin stretched out his hand, took out a kerchief and gently covered Zhang Ziluo's eyebrows. Ziluo, don't look. He will lose control. He didn't want to scare her. Kui Hejin's fingers penetrated her clothes, bringing with them a temperature as cool as jade, igniting her flame little by little. Zhang Ziluo felt a strange feeling all over her body. Crane hibiscus. Don't be afraid, be good, trust me. He was reluctant to hurt her, so he could only restrain himself first. With her eyes covered, she couldn't see anything, but Zhang Ziluo could feel the aura on his body even more. Chinese and pleasant smelling. His voice has a touch of charming entanglement. His breath is also on the lips and teeth, which is strong and seductive. Her heartbeat was beating like a drum, and she was so dizzy that she could hardly breathe. I don't know how much time passed later. Zhang Ziluo was so tired that she didn't want to move. Until Kui Hejin helped Zhang Ziluo clean herself and hugged her to sleep, Kui Hejin entered a strange dream. He also had a vague and recurring dream before. But this time, the fog in front of me suddenly dispersed, revealing a bluestone street. This is the capital? It looks different from the layout of the capital city, but the buildings are very similar. It was evening, before the curfew, and there were many people walking on the street. Suddenly he heard the sound of punching and kicking at the entrance of an alley. Kui Hejin walked over, but he found that his whole person was transparent. People here couldn't see him, and he couldn't touch anything, but he could only watch. In the corner of the alley, several servants were punching and kicking a man. The person who was beaten could not see clearly. It's just that the man was wearing an old washed white shirt and looked like a poor scholar. Those people cursed at him. Kui Hejin wanted people to stop, but no one heard him at all. But at this moment, the sound of horse hoofbeats sounded, and a stunningly beautiful girl rode over. As soon as she dismounted and appeared, the servants seemed to recognize her distinguished status, and they all ran away in fright. The girl came to the scholar and saw that he was seriously injured, so she carried him on her back. Then she walked down a street and came to a doctor's house in the alley, asking the doctor to help treat the man. He also put down the silver. From the moment the girl appeared, Kui Hejin's heart was filled with turmoil, and he didn't dare to move his eyes. Ziluo. This is his Ziluo. What exactly is going on? The girl left after rescuing the man. It was just the poor scholar who was rescued. When he woke up and Kui Hejin saw his appearance clearly, he was even more shocked. He looked exactly like him. Moreover, when he told the doctor his name, he turned out to be Kui Jinzi. When Kui Hejin saw this scene, he couldn't believe it. Ziluo, is it his Ziluo? Even though their appearance is the same, some of their auras are still different. And there are some differences in clothing. I don't even know where this place is. Obviously similar to the buildings in the capital, but different. His appearance is obviously the same as that of Exiled, but his name is different, and his temperament, clothing, and identity are also different. Kui Hejin was full of doubts and wanted to follow the girl and ask. But for some reason, he could only watch near Kui Jinzi. That night, Kui Hejin had a long dream. The dream was all about Kui Jinzi and the girl Zhang Luo'er. They met when he was at his lowest. He was rescued by her, and later he found out that she was the most dazzling pearl in the capital, Princess Mingluo, the princess of the royal palace. He was even more sought after by the princes of aristocratic families. But no one would have thought that she had silently protected him several times, allowing him to successfully participate in the imperial examination. Even on the day of the examination, someone deliberately blocked the road. If she hadn't appeared with a carriage, he would not have been able to enter the examination room to take the exam smoothly. She is so bright and dazzling. Once he saw her, he couldn't help but ask, "Why does the girl help me again and again?" The girl smiled brightly and said, "I have read the article you wrote. Your pseudonym is Nan He, right?" As he spoke, the girl took out an article and said, "This is the article for our exchange." Zhang Luo'er used to dress up as a man in order to go to the academy to study. At that time, the academy had a special book club, and students from all over the country would exchange articles together. She has a pseudonym, but she is friends with Nan He Yiwen. I am Baiji. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 415. A lot of things happened in the dream. Kui Hejin has seen a lot. Until Kui Hejin woke up, he still didn't come back to his senses. He looked at the roof with a strong sourness in his eyes. The tears will come out uncontrollably. At this moment, Kui Hejin's emotions were almost out of control, and his body was trembling slightly. After a while, he came to his senses and saw the person in his arms. Kui Hejin hugged her tightly, very hard. As if he wanted to rub Zhang Ziluo into the depths of his heart. Zhang Ziluo was still asleep when she suddenly felt a strong force. When she opened her eyes, she saw it was Kui Hejin. "What's the matter?" As soon as she opened her mouth, Zhang Ziluo's voice became very hoarse. It was too late last night. Her whole body was still very weak and she had no strength at all. At this time, I hadn't slept enough, and I was drowsy when I was hugged and hurt by Kui Hejin. Kui Hejin's eyes were moist, and he said in a hoarse voice, "It's okay, I just want to hug you." Even though Kui Hejin tried hard to control his emotions, Zhang Ziluo still suddenly heard the choked tone in his voice. "Hejin, what's wrong with you, are you crying?" Zhang Ziluo's sleepiness disappeared all of a sudden because she was worried about Kui Hejin. She wanted to get up, but the hug was too tight and she couldn't move at all. She always felt that his arms holding her were shaking, and she didn't know why. Zhang Ziluo was almost breathless and said, "Hejin, I'm in a little pain." Hearing that Zhang Ziluo was in pain, Kui Hejin hurriedly let go of Zhang Ziluo in a panic. "Ziluo, what's wrong with you, where does it hurt or feel uncomfortable? Did I hurt you just now, or last night?" Zhang Ziluo now saw Kui Hejin's red eyes, filled with tears. "I'm fine, why are you crying?" Speaking, Zhang Ziluo reached out and gently touched Kui Hejin's eyes, wiping away the tears in his eyes. She has never seen Kui Hejin like this. Just looking at him like this, Zhang Ziluo's heart suddenly clenched. Looking at him like this, Zhang Ziluo couldn't help but feel heartbroken. In his last life, when he was punished, he did not shed a single tear. Kui Hejin said in a hoarse voice, "I had a dream. I dreamed of many scenes, and I dreamed of you dying for me." Boom. Zhang Ziluo's head made a bang. "You, how could you dream? That happened in the previous life." He was imprisoned in order to save her and the entire palace. At that time, she was controlled, unable to get close or move at all, and watched helplessly as he was executed. Later, she quietly collected his body, found a beautiful place with his body, and then committed suicide. Indeed it is. Unexpectedly, I would be reborn in the ancient parallel world and meet Kui Hejin again. At that time, she only wanted to be good to him. Of course at that time, Zhang Ziluo was sure that he had no memory of his previous life. But like this, I just remembered it. Zhang Ziluo's nose also felt sore, and she whispered, "Do you think it's a dream?" "No, although it is a dream, it feels so clear, as if it happened in the previous life." Zhang Ziluo suppressed the sour emotion in her heart and said, "It did happen in the last life. That was an experience in the previous life. I knew it was you from the moment I saw you. We communicated through articles at the beginning. You are Nanhe and I am Baiji. We all wrote articles under pseudonyms. Later you went to the capital to take the exam, and I read the article about your participation in the tea club, so I knew it was you right away." End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 416. Later I came to you to confess. At that time, when I saw you, all I could see was you, but you were always restrained and polite, and you were calm and self-possessed, which made it difficult for me to see your heart clearly. I get close again and again, but you always remain calm and rational." Hearing this, Kui Hejin said in a low voice, "I'm sorry, it's my fault, it's all my fault." At this moment, Kui Hejin was holding Zhang Ziluo, feeling extremely distressed. His voice was vibrating, and he was blaming himself in his heart. Kui Hejin's eyes were red, and he had to control his emotions hard to prevent tears from falling. "Aluo." This sound of Aluo made Zhang Ziluo directly break through the defense. That's what he called her after the last life. He was always so calm and self-possessed, rarely letting her see his emotions exposed. Only when he calls her this way can she feel that he cares. Zhang Ziluo broke through the defense directly, and her tears fell uncontrollably. "Well, it's me, it's me." Kui Hejin couldn't see Zhang Ziluo crying, so he lowered his head and kissed her tears away gently. His movements were gentle and careful, treating Zhang Ziluo like a treasure in his heart. After controlling her emotions, Zhang Ziluo said, "Actually, I'm sorry for you. If I didn't provoke you, you wouldn't be." Kui Hejin's lips fell on hers. "That's not the case. It's you, it's your appearance that makes me feel that my heart is alive and makes me feel what love is." In the last life, Kui Hejin expressed the love that she refused to express. Because after experiencing the previous life, he understood that there were some things he just wanted to say. If he didn't tell it, his Aluo might not even know about it. He still remembered that when he saw her, she was always as bright and dazzling as the sun. She can always attract the attention and admiration of many young masters. But there was a poetry club outing, and someone expressed his love in a subtle way. But she told everyone that she liked him. Her smile and look at that time were something he could never forget even now. But at that time, he was just a poor student who came to Beijing to take the exam and had just passed the provincial examination. But people like him are so inconspicuous in front of the powerful people in the capital. The dignitaries couldn't believe that the person the princess liked was him. He didn't believe it either. But later she showed with actual actions that she really liked him. But how dare he get close? She is the princess, beautiful, bright and dazzling. No matter how calm and composed he was, he couldn't resist her enthusiasm. How could he refuse her? Later, after being named on the gold medal list, he was supposed to enter the Hanlin Academy. But in order to stay with her, he invited himself to go to a bitter and cold place to make achievements. He is not afraid of hard work and works conscientiously for the local people. Outstanding political achievements allowed him to be promoted quickly. Some people think that he is talented, while others think that he is very ambitious and just wants to climb up. But only he knew best in his heart that he was doing it all for her, so that he could have the courage to approach her and have the courage to respond to her. He was not afraid of rumors, he was only afraid of her being sad. She shed a tear, and his heart ached beyond measure. "Allo, I'm sorry before it was my fault for making you sad." How could he say such words to her in this life, on their wedding night? Kui Hejin couldn't blame himself more. "In this life, I'm sorry, I should have been nice to you from the beginning." He should make it up to her. No wonder his Alugo would say such strange things to him at that time. No wonder she sometimes gets distracted when looking at him, with complicated emotions in her eyes. Now he understood what was going on. End of chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 417. Kui Hejin carefully hugged Zhang's Alugo and kept saying sorry. At this moment, he wished he could give his heart to Zhang's Alugo. Zhang's Alugo reached out and hugged Kui Hejin's neck and said, "Don't say you're sorry. You don't know how grateful I am to see you after having the memory of my previous life. I was really excited at that time. It was on the night of my wedding that I had the memory of my previous life." To this day, Zhang's Alugo still remembers how she looked when she saw Kui Hejin that day. She felt really excited that day. "But I said that to you." Zhang's Alugo said, "That's okay. I thought at that time that as long as you were well, it would be fine. I didn't ask for anything else at that time. I just wanted you to be safe and sound, and I just wanted to heal your health." Kui Hejin hugged her and originally wanted to say that she could actually tell him. But now listening to her words, he even felt a sense of fear. He could guess that at that time Zhang's Alugo actually wanted to cure him and then leave the Kui family. Kui Hejin's heart tingled at the thought of this. "Alugo, don't leave me." Recovering the memory of his previous life, he couldn't bear to be without her. "He will go crazy." Zhang's Alugo said seriously, "I don't know how. How can I let it go? I will always be by your side." Hearing these words, Kui Hejin felt a little better. In the last life, Kui Hejin later became a powerful minister under one person and above 10,000 people. But still, in order to save their palace, save her relatives, save her, and bear the infamy. Of course she also died in love, and she couldn't breathe in a world without him. Fortunately, they meet again in this life. Zhang's Alugo hugged Kui Hejin and leaned in his arms, feeling that it was great to have Kui Hejin by her side at this time. She didn't even expect that he could regain his memory at this time. Kui Hejin lowered his head and kissed Zhang's Alugo's eyebrows gently. Fortunately, when he regained his memory, his Alugo was by his side. Otherwise he will go crazy. At this time, Kui Hejin was holding Zhang's Alugo and seemed not to let go. "Just keep holding it like this." He thought that in this life, he would make up for everything to her. The two of them talked for a long time and did not go out to have breakfast until half-noon. The next two people also became busy. Kui Hejin goes to the Hanlin Academy every day to take up a job, while Zhang's Alugo walks around the street markets in Beijing every day to prepare for opening a store. As for Pei Nanshan, he also approached Kui Qingkai several times, but Kui Qingkai ignored Pei Nanshan at all. Kui Qingkai is also busy with her career every day. Her sister-in-law asked her to be in charge of the lip balm and shampoo business. She used these to open a shop, and the business was booming. But it happened to be a rainy day, so there were fewer people coming. Kui Qingkai saw an old lady in shabby clothes being driven away from the shop opposite. "Go away, a beggar wants to come to our restaurant. This is not a place for people like you to enter. Go quickly, don't disturb other guests." The old lady staggered a few times and almost fell to the ground. Kui Qingkai couldn't stand it, so she walked over with an umbrella and said, "Old man, Are you okay? The old lady looked at a beautiful girl, shook her head and said, "It's okay. I'm just old and can't walk very well." Kui Kinkai said, "Old man, my shop is opposite. If you don't mind, go and sit in my shop." "Then why are you so embarrassed, girl? If you open a shop, will it cause you trouble?" Kui Kinkai said warmly, "No trouble. It happens to be raining today and there is no one around. Old man, please go sit with me for a while and chat with me." In order to make the old lady feel more at ease, Kui Kinkai said this deliberately. Kui Kinkai was holding an umbrella, and the umbrellas fell on the old lady. She carefully helped the old lady into the store and sat down, then poured water for the old lady to warm her body. "Girl, your store looks really nice. I've never seen these things before." Kui Kinkai smiled and patiently explained how to use shampoo, lip balm, etc. She saw that the old man's hand had some cracks. She took out a small sample of hand ointment and handed it to the old lady and said, "Old man, this is for you. Use it on your hands and it will prevent cracks." "How can this be done, girl? How can I take your things?" Kui Kinkai said, "It's okay, this is a free sample for an event." Because Kui Kinkai also lived in the countryside, she felt a sense of intimacy when looking at such an old lady, and there was no discrimination at all. Kui Kinkai explained everything the old lady wanted to know seriously. Moreover, Kui Kinkai looked at the old lady and couldn't help but think of her mother when she was in the countryside. If it weren't for the sister-in-law, her mother might also have a harder time. Although Kui Kinkai feels that her ability is limited now that she has seen it, she is willing to help the old lady. It's just a place to take shelter from the rain. Kui Kinkai spoke with a smile and was very patient. The old lady looked at Kui Kinkai and nodded secretly in her heart. This girl looked really nice. She seemed to be very knowledgeable in her kindness and conversation. "Girl, it's not easy for you to run this store, right? Fortunately, I have something to do this way, and I feel quite fulfilled every day. I don't know these things myself, I learned them from my sister-in-law." The old lady nodded even more inwardly. This girl looked very humble and had such a good temper. "Then your family agrees with you setting up a shop?" Kui Kinkai nodded and said, "Well, my family doesn't follow so many rules, so I'm allowed to open a shop." The old lady asked, and Kui Kinkai answered with a smile, "I feel like there's nothing I can't say about this." While talking, there was a noise outside. It seemed like a wave of cold air suddenly poured into the store. Kui Kinkai stood up and suddenly saw a man wearing an embroidered spring knife and a flying fish suit coming in from outside the store. The man is tall, with handsome appearance, but his face is filled with a cold and stern look. There is a chilling atmosphere. Even Kui Kinkai was shocked when she saw Jin Yiwei. People in the capital are afraid of Jin Yiwei. Especially when he glanced at me, my whole body felt like I was frozen. When the man saw the old lady on the chair, his expression became slightly gentler, but he still didn't have much expression. "Mom, why didn't you say anything when you came to Beijing?" The old lady looked at the man and said, "Oh, look at you, it's not the first time you have come here to do all the hard work. I can find the manner, why did you come out to find me in person? I'm telling you, don't scare Xiaosai. If it weren't for Xiaosai just now, I might have been bullied. If it weren't for Xiaosai, I would still have been caught in the rain. You have to help me thank them." Kui Kinkai recovered from the shock and quickly waved her hands. No need to thank you. This man's clothing characteristics should be that of a commander of a royal guard. Commander of the royal guards, a person that all officials are afraid of, how can she be thanked? She didn't even expect that this old lady was actually the commander's mother. Yekin Han looked at Kui Kinkai, then at the store, and quickly filtered out some information in his mind. End of chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fengyuan Kandi. Chapter 418. Yekin Han's expression changed. That girl from the Kui family, Kui Kinkai. There is information about her in Jinyue, and he has read it. Yekin Han also knows what Kui Kinkai has been through. But Yekin Han looked calm and did not look at her strangely because he knew what Kui Kinkai had been through. Kui Kinkai looked at the commander of the Jinyi guards and felt that he looked like. "Thank you very much, Miss Kui. If you are in a hurry today, I will definitely stop by to say thank you someday." Kui Kinkai felt that it was a simple matter of effort, but in fact, she didn't do much. Unexpectedly, Yekin Han actually came to the door to say thank you. Although he is the commander of the Imperial Guard, he never has any airs. Looking cold and stern, he is actually very polite. After several contacts, Kui Kinkai felt that Yekin Han was not as scary as the rumors. She opened a store in the capital, and some people wanted to cause trouble, but after Jin Yiwei helped solve the problem, everyone realized that her store was protected by Jin Yiwei, and no one dared to cause trouble. So much so that Kui Kinkai opened a store in the capital very smoothly. Even if Pei Nanshan wanted to find Kui Kinkai again, it was Yekin Han who helped her settle the matter. Kui Kinkai has been in contact with Yekin Han for a long time, and then she knows what it is like for a person to take responsibility. How does it feel when someone is nice to her? Not to mention that Yekin Han's mother would come to the store from time to look for her, and would also bring her some food made by herself. Kui Kinkai was moved and grateful. "I will also make some snacks suitable for the elderly for the old lady to eat." In this way, a year later, Kui Kinkai and Yekin Han got married. Everyone in the Kui family is also very satisfied with Yekin Han. Everyone can see that Yekin Han is very considerate towards Kui Kinkai. Not only did Yekin Han and Kui Kinkai get married, but Zhang Ziluo and Kui Hejin also had a child. Zhang Ziluo gave birth to twins. The two little guys have become everyone's favorites. It was also during the 100-day banquet for the twins that everyone realized that the wife Kui Hejin married in the countryside was actually Wei Qingluo, the once legendary Wei Lu girl of the Wei family. This simply shocked everyone. Many young men in the capital will feel even more sour now. No wonder Kui Hejin cherishes his wife so much. As expected of Miss Wei Lu, she is not only good at cooking but also has excellent medical skills. I heard that the bodies of Kui Hejin and his mother were nursed back to health by Miss Wei Lu. I heard that many people in the Wei family were brought back by Miss Wei Lu herself. I heard that when the emperor was in Zhangzhou before, it was Miss Wei Lu who went to the battlefield in person, and the use of the Overlord spear was shocking. No wonder Jiang's fast food restaurants have opened all over the country and are so popular. It's no wonder that Miss Wei Lu has been very good since she was a child and knows a lot. She can research all kinds of delicious food. While everyone was discussing their curiosity, everyone also met the legendary Wei Lu girl during the banquet. He was even more amazed by her stunning appearance. The seal on Zhang Ziluo's body was lifted, and her appearance became even more beautiful. Is even more amazing. Of course, the people who were discussing behind the scenes could no longer formulate anything to say, they were only shocked. Everyone couldn't help but sigh in private, this is really two amazing and legendary people getting together. 2 years later, 18-year-old Zhang Yun won the first prize in the examination, and Zhang Ziluo bought a large house for him. Zhang Xiangchuan and Ye took Zhang Yunzhen and others to Beijing together. After that, everyone in the Zhang family also lived in the capital. Zhang Yunzhen won the top 10 in the martial arts competition and joined the Yulin Guard as a guard. Zhang Yunhua is also 16 years old. Because he is very good at making velvet flowers, he opened an embroidery shop in the capital and the business is booming. Even Zhang Ziluo would never have thought that her fifth brother, Wei Hanlin, the fifth son of the Wei family, would like Zhang Yunhua. The Wei family does not value family status, and is more grateful to Zhang Xiangchuan and Ye for taking such good care of Zhang Ziluo before, so they naturally agreed to the marriage. Zhang Yunhua also had feelings for Wei Hanlin, so the two families followed the 6 rites normally. On the day when Wei Hanlin and Zhang Yunhua got married, the capital was extremely lively. Zhang Ziluo and Kui Hejin's son and daughter are also 2 years old, and Yeqian Han and Kui Qinkai's daughter is 1 year old. Qiao Mengmeng is also 7 years old. She came out of the palace and took the little ones to play with her. On weekdays, Qiao Mengmeng sometimes lives in the palace, sometimes in the Wei family, and sometimes in the Kui family. Everyone dotes on her. Mainly because her parents are now in charge of southern Xinjiang and have little time to come back. Zhang Ziluo and Kui Hejin came to the Wei family and watched the lively scene. Seeing that everyone in the Wei family was still there, Zhang Ziluo also had a smile on her face. Kui Hejin kept holding Zhang Ziluo's hand. When he looked down at her, there was a gentle look on his face. He was grateful that he had met his Ziluo again in this life, so that he could pamper her, protect her and love her. I've had a headache these past few days, I have no energy, I'm a bit anorexic, I'm not sleeping very well, and I don't know if it's because of Yang. I'll explain this in the extra chapter. Thank you for your support, little cuties. I want to take a good rest and recuperate my body first. See you in the next book.